Today we're going to do a tune-up on this red Diamondback hardtail. The first thing we're going to check is the chain wear. So I have my handy chain checker tool. I'm going to drop it down in here, push it down to make sure it's secure, and I'm going to put this down in and push it down, and it just snaps to the halfway position. I mean, if you just rest it there, it's saying the chain's not worn, but there's just enough slack that you can pop it in there. So this chain doesn't need to be replaced yet. Now we're going to use the Park tool, DAG 2.2 Derailleur hanger alignment gauge to check our derailleur hanger alignment. You want your derailleur hanger alignment to be parallel with your sprockets so that each index of your derailleur moves the chain the appropriate distance. First thing we're going to do is remove the derailleur. Push this button here to lock your cage so there's no spring tension on it. Loosen your derailleur, remove it. Then we will thread the tool into where the derailleur hanger is. Now I did a whole video just on adjusting this. So if you want to know how to do it, there's another video that explains it more in detail. First thing I want to do is extend this so it just touches the rim. Move it down to the bottom, and you can see that the derailleur hanger has been bent this way a little bit. So apparently it got whacked at some point, or vibrations took their toll or something. So what I want to do is use this, make sure it's snug in there, and gently bend the derailleur hanger just a little, and then we'll measure it again. So put this right up against the rim, lock this down, move it up here, move it up, and check it. Now, it's just a millimeter inside the edge of the rim, which is just about perfect. That's where I like to see it. I want the derailleur hanger to be bent out at the bottom just a touch, because that'll take up the slop in your derailleur. And then the cage will be parallel where it needs to be. All right, so next thing we'll do is we'll check it this way. So bring this in, adjust this up against the rim, like so. Bring it over here, slide it up, and you can see it's perfect there. So we got the same distance from here as we did down here. So the distance between this point and the rim is good. We'll go ahead and remove this tool. Tighten that down. Release the tension. Good to go. We're going to go ahead and check our shifting through the gears. Make sure that the indexing is correct, that it's jumping the correct distance with each click to shift correctly. It's pretty easy to do. You just run it through the gears. Observe. Okay, see there, I'm in the lowest and I'm clicking a big button to move it up, and it's not moving up. So that tells me that we need to adjust the slack in our cable. All right, so what I want to do is take slack out of the cable. So I'm going to unscrew this barrel adjuster do it a couple of clicks at a time, and then try my shifting again. All right, so clicking up, there it goes. And I'm going to drop it back down real quick. Make sure that I don't have to push the lever any further than just to where it clicks. And we'll continue to climb up. And drop back down. All right, now, next thing I'm going to check is to make sure that the chain is not in danger of falling off of the small sprocket. So now I'm eyeing up the small sprocket, lining it up with the chain and the idler sprocket, making sure they're lined up. And making sure that the derailleur can't move any further to the outside because this adjusting screw is stopping it. So if I can't push it any further past there with my hand, then that means we're good. So now I'm going to do the same thing with the big sprocket. I'm just going to eyeball this idler gear, make sure it and the chain are in line, and that you can't push the derailleur over so that the chain is in danger of falling off the inside of your big sprocket. So we're good there. All right, the next thing we're going to do is check the B tension screw adjustment. And what we're looking at here is the distance between this tooth and this tooth. Now to me, that looks like the gap's a little big. I like to see it about 3 to 4 millimeters here. Another way to check it is drop it down to the second biggest sprocket, your second lowest gear, and you want there to be almost no gap between the tooth here on your idler and the tooth on your sprocket. And you can see there we've got maybe 2 to 3 millimeters. So I'm going to adjust this B screw here and see if we can't get that lined up. Okay, you can see this idler sprocket has a tooth on it right here, and your big sprocket has a tooth on it right there, and they're almost completely even with each other. I'm going to back it down just a little bit more. You can see as I adjust, I'm increasing the gap. You can see the gap increasing between these two. And if I screw it the other way, like unscrew it, it gets closer. So you want it to be almost even with it. Just like that. Now we'll just do a quick check of the bearings. What we're looking for is free play in your wheel bearings. And I hear a little clicking there, so we might have to investigate that. Little side-to-side play. Try to move the cranks this way. I don't feel any free play there. Get your front wheel, do the same thing as the back wheel. Try to move the wheel from side to side this way. Don't feel anything there. We'll have to take it off the bike rack to check for steering head bearing play. So let's go ahead and take this back wheel off and investigate those wheel bearings. Okay, I've got the tension off. I went to look for a wrench. This crazy thing has a quick release on the back, so don't need a wrench. Pull the quick release lever. It is a through axle. pull that out. Readjust the rack because the bike is going to fall if I don't. There we go. All right, let's move this over here. Okay, I do feel a little looseness. Okay, so I've got the wheel off, and what I discovered was when I pull this adjuster off of here, pull the axle out, the bearings feel perfectly fine. What was causing the looseness, I believe, and we'll check when I put it back on the bike, is this adjuster was just loose. So we'll put that back in. Make sure we got all the pieces. You got your pawls for your free hub body attached to that. Make sure that none of those came apart. Thread this back on. Then I'm going to get my cone wrenches and tighten that down. All right, I've got a set of wrenches here. Don't really need cone wrenches because these are both just on the outside. But I'm going to use a cone wrench on this side because it fits. Okay, then we'll just snug that down. And now we got rid of the free play. All right, so this, I'm going to check the sealant, the condition of the sealant in this tire. It appears that this valve stem is not one that comes apart. Sometimes you can just unscrew, disassemble the valve stem, put something down in there or use it like a dipstick, but I can't do that with this. So what I'm going to do is pop the bead and just take a peek inside. Like so. Make sure the bead is down in the drop center all the way around, and then we should be able to peel the tire off like so. Okay, now you can see in there, it's almost completely dried up. There's just a little bit of moist, thick booger-like snot in there, so we're gonna add some. I've already shaken the bottle several times. Just want to make sure it's all good and shaken up and homogenized. All right, this bottle has handy dandy gradients listed here, 16 ounces. I want to put at least 4 ounces in, maybe 5 ounces. So I'm going to note where the 12-ounce line is. Make sure we have a nice little pocket there. Pour some in. Check it. And just a little splash more. All right, then we will proceed to put the bead back on the rim, being careful not to spill the sealant. so. Now we will pull the bead out of the drop center as much as we can. As far around the rim as we can. This way, when we put the pump on there and start to air up the tire, it will seal and the air will stay in the tire while we pump it up. And that worked wonderfully. Put about 35 in here. Hear the bead pop. You can get yourself a spray bottle, put a little laundry detergent and water mix in there. And just spray it around the bead. See if you get any bubbles. Now we'll check the wheel, make sure that it's true, and check the spoke tension. You can see how the gap closes and then increases as the wheel spins around. When it's got more of a gap, that means the wheel has shifted over this way a little. Where the gap closes, the wheel has shifted over this way a little. So we need to adjust the spokes to get that in alignment. Okay, so you want to identify where it starts to move and choose which spokes you want to adjust. So I'm going to adjust from about here to here. So every spoke on the left side of where I am right now, I'm going to tighten those about a quarter to an eighth of a turn. And what I'm doing is I'm pulling the wheel over this way to increase this gap here. And I need to go a little bit more. So this time, instead of tightening the spokes on the left side, I'm going to loosen the spokes on the right side by about a quarter. In the future, I may do an entire video on wheel building and adjusting. Okay, so from about here, let me check that again. Yeah, for about here where this M35 is, all the way to here, I want to move the wheel over this way a little. So all these spokes on the right side, I'm going to tighten about a quarter of a turn because I don't need to go very far. Okay, that's really close. Yeah, we've barely got half a millimeter side to side now. So we're good. The run out, which is the measurement this way, looks good also. This next check you could do in the truing stand or outside of the truing stand. This measures your spoke tension, and what we're looking for is a uniform amount of tension, and to make sure that the spoke tension is within specs. So there we've got 25, 25. So basically you just go around and check each spoke and make sure that the measurement on the tension is the same. And that's it. We'll go around and check the other side. If we needed to adjust it, that would be a whole other video on how to get your tension right while maintaining true. All right, so our brake pads are pretty worn. I already took this little clip off the backside here. That's what the clip looks like. It just slips on the back of this pin. So I've already taken that off. Forgot to video it. We'll loosen this bolt. Unscrew this, pull the pads out, take a closer look at them. I don't know, they look pretty fried to me. Let's see if we have a set. And I do not have a set of pads for this. So we will have to acquire some. All right, squeeze those together. Drop them back down in there. Slide the pin through. Tighten the pin. Put the little clip on the back. Like so. Good to go. Now we'll mount the wheel. All right, we get a little grease. Not much. Just put a little on the axle, on the through bolt. And this isn't really because it needs any lube. This is just to help keep the rust out of there when it gets water and stuff in it. If it oxidizes, then sometimes it's hard to pull your axle out. Oops. Make sure you put the spring tension back in it. And make sure it's on your chain ring. And this is a narrow wide, so you have to pay attention to how wide your sprocket teeth are. You want a wide sprocket tooth on a link that has outside plates. I just performed the same service on the front wheel that I did to the back. Put some sealant in it, check the spoke tension, get ready to mount it again. Again, you're going to want a little bit of grease. You're also going to want to use a torque wrench. If a bolt has the torque written on it, you want to go ahead and use that. I had to heat this up with a torch to get it off of there. It was really tight. I don't know if it was too tight or if it just got seized up a little. Get a little oxidation, it'll seize up. All right, so I got a little grease here. All right, to finish this up, throw a little lube on here. Got my Remington oil. Hit the pivot points. And this derailleur has a little idler wheel for the cable here. I also like to hit the little O-rings that are in here. I like to hit the pedal. Keep those O-rings lubed up a little. Get some chain lube. This is DuPont Chain Saver. I like it, keeps the dirt off of things. Oh, we'll check the headset real quick. What you do is you grab the front brake and hold your headset here and just wiggle the bike forwards and backwards. And what you're feeling for is any motion or clicking in the headset up front. So I don't feel anything there. And then do the same thing for the bottom. Yes. I definitely feel a little motion in the bottom. So what we need to do is loosen these pinch bolts. There's an adjusting bolt underneath of this cap. So what I want to do is just give that a little nudge. You don't want it tight. You just want it snug. And then we'll do the same test. All right, now I don't feel any free play at all. I don't even feel any free play over on this handlebar. Pick up the front end. Make sure that the headset bearings aren't binding. Make sure they're nice and loose. And then tighten down the stem. All right, then we'll put this little cap back on and we're done. It's time for a test ride.